I was just reminiscing with my colleagues that the last time that I did public speaking here in Austin, I had food poisoning the night before. And I will tell you, that was awful, but also great because I had an excuse for fumbling through a presentation. So today I don't have any excuses other than maybe one too many, what do we call them, regular beverages last night. But it is great to be in front of you all this morning. So hello. Quick show of hands, who is already familiar with Atmosphere TV and what we do? Sweet. All right. Well, for the rest of you, this is why we do what we do. For those who are, I see some friendlies, I see some partners, so thank you for your partnership. But a few years ago, when I was doing this, and people would raise their hands, it'd be 3 or 4. So we're getting a little bit of momentum here. But ultimately, we are reimagining the way that television is consumed outside the living room. So we like to call that pioneering, the next frontier. But ultimately, what it is reconsidering and reimagining the way that content is consumed, because we know in the fragmentation in the space that we have to give people what they want. We have to give them more of what they want. We have to give it to them in a way that they want to consume it. So how do we think about this? We think about it as when you leave your living room and you go out and you consume content, whether that's in a bar or a restaurant or a gym or a doctor's office, that experience should be unique and bespoke. It should be snackable content that gives you the opportunity to tune in or tune out to your leisure, but also it gives an opportunity to show some messaging in between that incredible content. And in doing so, creating new scale, right? Creating new advertising options and creating new solutions to work within those advertising options. So, as we look at this opportunity to pioneer the new frontier, and I'm doing this in filler mode here right now because as this converted over to a PC, I realized that I have to hit this button 4 times to get a slide to advance, and my thumb is not connected to my brain right now. So we're gonna get there, guys, we're gonna get there. However, our origin story, even though we're outside of the living room, it really starts inside the living room. It starts with families and friends gathering around to watch shows, whether that's probably not the news, but it might be Yellowstone. It might be, for those of us who are older in the crowd, TGIF. You guys remember TGIF, right? It's a little bit different now, though, right? And so when we think about the way that this episodic, full-form content is consumed inside the home, and then you translate that to a bar or a restaurant or anywhere outside of the home, that same experience is much, much lower, right? When I take my kids to a restaurant and they have an old episode of The Simpsons on with the subtitles on underneath it, that's not a great experience. However, when we can translate that and we can put different types of engaging, highly contextual content in front of these folks, we have the opportunity to entertain the masses in a new and unique way that allows people to enjoy that experience, right? So when we can see superhuman feats or we can see live sports highlights instead of Stephen A. Smith yelling at us with subtitles, now we can keep people's attention for a longer period of time. We might even cure that head-down syndrome, right? We might even get them to come off of their phones and stare at the screens for a little while. So as our team has put this together, we look at the opportunity to show just the highlights, just the previews of the upcoming games, or these superhuman feats that are inspiring and that you can't take your eyes off of them. So how are we doing this? Well, we looked at the content landscape, and we created about 30 channels that are bespoke to all different environments. This is everything from the PGA Tour channel to Red Bull TV to Chive TV, and now live sports. So as of a couple of months ago, we're now streaming the Dallas Stars and the Anaheim Ducks. Any Savannah Bananas fans in the house? Let's go. All right, spoiler alert, because we haven't actually released it yet, but the Savannah Bananas will now be streaming live on our platform, right? So as we continue to grow this scale with this new lane, the opportunities to add to this content portfolio continue to expand with it. However, when we look at that, we are 100% non-skippable inventory. We're 100% brand safe. All of this content is created in a way that is not going to interfere with anybody's political beliefs or anybody's religious beliefs. It's 100% family and brand safe. Now, Jake, that's cool, but is it working? And how would you know if it was working? Well, we think it is. Because when we have the third parties measure our platform, they say about 150 million people per month are viewing this content. I know it's a big number. I know that everybody who has slides says that they're the best at everything and the biggest, right? However, for those of you who didn't raise your hands, we're probably the biggest media company you've never heard of. So 150 million viewers crossing every single DMA, across all these different types of venues and more, right? And there's more, across the entire country. This clicker thing's gonna get me. However, so there's your infomercial. Why does anybody in this room care? Well, I know quite a few of you in the room care because you have our content in your venues. Thank you for being a partner, a streaming partner. Why should marketers care? Well, we like to boil it down to 3 reasons that you should care about this new platform, this new lane. So the new scale that we've created, that opportunity that has evolved from TGIF on Fridays, right, and gathering around the TV, to a very fragmented experience, like when my 8- and 6-year-old are watching different shows than I'm watching at the same time in the same house. That fragmentation gives us an opportunity to come outside of the living room, and when we do that, we have much more scale. This is new and unique incremental audience. In addition to that, this new lane that we've created, these are previously untargetable televisions. Now all of a sudden they're targetable. How targetable are they? All the way down to the individual device. So if you have a favorite bartender that you want to wish happy birthday at 5 p.m. on a Friday, you can put that message right in front of that bartender at 5 p.m. on a Friday. This new lane has new optionality. That new optionality comes with new solutions, the ability to put the right message at the right time in front of the right people to influence their decision making. So context redefined, proximity to purchase, and there's also this opportunity to truly own sports. Right? We know that that a good portion of live sports are consumed outside of the living room. So how are we talking to that audience in a new, unique, and differentiated way? Back to the size and the scale of platform, we used to say number one. We wanted to make sure that we didn't just say number one, because we're not truly number one if you look at things like YouTube, okay? So we're gonna be number two, just so I can build a little bit of confidence in y'all that we're not just gonna stand up here and say we're the biggest at everything, okay? However, when you look at that scale and you compare it to all these great in-home solutions, ours is 100% ad supported. So when you are watching in the home, and we're trying to target those folks in the home, if they're not watching that ad-supported channel, or that network, or that streaming service, we don't have the opportunity to put that messaging in front of them. However, when we leave the home, we have the opportunity to have 100% reach of these audiences. Not only that, but we don't have to motivate people to leave the house. They've already done it. They've already left the house. These are the goers, the doers, the spenders. These are people who go about town, and they spend money, and they consume products, and they consume food, most importantly. So our partners, friends over at Discover Card looked at this opportunity and said, well, if we know that diners are dining and we know we can put messaging in front of diners, why not remind them that had they used their Discover Card, they'd get 5% cash back on that experience, right? A highly contextual opportunity to talk to people who are in a buying state of mind, right at the exact right moment in time to say, hey, you would have actually made some money off of this purchase had you used this card. Contextual targeting, I'm telling you all, hitting this button so many times has got me stuttering, right? I already gave the excuses for why I was going to stumble through this presentation, but this button's getting me right now. And that's not anybody's fault, it was how it converted. However, contextual targeting redefined. So when we think about the different types of opportunities to talk to different groups, we have, say, alcohol consumers. So if we know that people are at happy hour, what do people get after happy hour? They tend to get a little bit hungry before they go home. Could we talk to folks and say, hey, now that you're at happy hour, maybe you should stop by our drive-thru on the way home? When we look at folks who are maybe at the gym, and we know that they're a healthier demographic, instead of just targeting health enthusiasts throughout the course of their entire day, what if we're talking to them about our healthy options while they're doing the healthy thing? While they're in that buying state of mind, while they're in that state of mind that's aligned with the messaging that we want to put in front of them. And then we have other segments that are highly redefined contextual targets, like our traveler groups, right? So in airports and other places where we can take just these behavioral targets and turn it directly into, we know who is in front of these screens at any given point in time. Button, button, button. Now, what we know is, especially in this room and sitting in some of the breakout groups and hearing y'all's presentations, is that there is still appetite and need for nationally bought media. However, we are all looking at how do we do things a little bit differently in different areas, and maybe we need to scale that down a little bit to make sure that every invested dollar gets the return that we're looking for. So our opportunity here is a nationwide scale across all of our DMAs, but the opportunity to get granular in our targeting. And I actually like this slide a lot better, so I swapped it out. But granular to the sense of not showing you that video. Here we go. Mac to PC conversion. Hey, there we go. So looking at the opportunity to go nationally, regionally, like the state of Texas, but then all the way down to the neighborhood level, and like I said, targetable all the way down to the individual device. So if we have a 3-mile radius for half of our rooftops and we have a 1.5-mile radius for 25% of our rooftops, perfectly fine. That's the option that's available to message folks specifically within these geographic parameters that makes sense for the messaging strategy that you have in place. Button, button. Back to sports. So we know that somewhere between 30 and 40% of all live sports are consumed outside the home, which makes sense when we look at our measurement partners who have told us that the foot traffic inside of our venues increases by 40% when live sports is on. So this sports adjacency is another new lane, a new optionality for us to put our messaging in line with live sports, to be that sports sponsor in an unofficial capacity to reach these target audiences. It's new, it's unique, it's an option that we have available to us that we haven't had prior. In addition to that, we have the opportunity to put customized messaging in front of these folks. So our friends over at Pepsi, they looked at, via their NFL partnership, they said, well, we don't want to just put Pepsi in front of all football fans. We want to be aligned with the fans of the specific teams. So in Cincinnati, let's put a Bengals ad out there. In Pittsburgh, let's put a Pittsburgh ad out there. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio originally, so this slide really gets me that we start off with the Bengals and the Steelers. However, let's put the right message in front of the right people at the right time, and let's target it and let's speak to them in their language. In addition to that, we have options for a little bit more localized. So when we talked to our friends at RAM, they said, well, this is a great idea. However, our spot is incredibly audio heavy. How are we going to care for that in an audio optional environment so that when people consume this content, there's no degradation in that experience? Well, we take an asset like a national TV spot, and we adapt that asset to a high-impact text experience that allows the consumer to understand exactly what message RAM wants to tell us. And then even better, and this is very relevant for this group, I know, even better, we can do direct API feeds with dynamic ads to say, hey, where is the closest location to where I am right now, right? So we feed the locations in through the API feed, and then we tell folks where we want them to go, right? All automated, all done in the background here. Keep going. Here we go. So is it working? And I know that there's been some other messaging around some partnerships with Jack in the Box because they're just doing some innovative things. But they came to us last year and they said, hey, we really want to drive our late night menu, right? We want more folks to come to us after they go to, let's assume, the bars. So between the hours of 9 p.m. and 2 a.m., we put some highly visual assets together to entice people to go to Jack in the Box after they leave that drinking establishment, their favorite watering hole. And we put this messaging specifically in front of these folks within a 3-mile radius. And when we measured this study, we found a 36% lift by putting this messaging in front of folks within 3 miles during those late night hours to drive foot traffic. This campaign did so well, it actually won an award, an industry award for the performance of the campaign. So we know that it works. We know that we have new and unique and differentiated audiences. We know that this is a very, very scalable option with the ability to target all the way down to the individual device. And we know that we can help in most cases. So our question for you as we wrap up today is there a way that we can help? So look forward to speaking with any and all of you that we haven't already talked to over the course of the next, how much longer we have, 24 hours, to see if there's any way that we can help to drive the foot traffic that you're looking to drive to increase overall revenue. Fair enough? Stumbled pretty good? All right, I'll bring my own clicker next time. All right, thanks y'all, appreciate you.